Kenya is a country of contrasts, with some of the most beautiful places and people on the earth. Kenya is also a country of boundless opportunities and countless challenges. In 1989, Indiana University School of Medicine and Moy University School of Medicine agreed to join together to train leaders in healthcare for both the United States and Africa. A group of 4 doctors from the IU School of Medicine looked in Ghana, Nepal, and in Eldoret, Kenya. At that time, Moy University was establishing a medical school, just the second medical school in Kenya. IU decided to partner with Moy University. The initial dream of a handful of Indiana and Kenyan doctors is now shared by thousands around the globe. The partnership these doctors built together now cares for mothers and babies, assists with numerous types of surgeries, and is treating cancer patients, and creating income security programs, food distribution programs to ensure family nutrition, and has built a system to ensure safe water for persons throughout Western Kenya. To respond to the HIV/AIDS crisis, the partnership with Moy University has created the academic model for prevention and treatment of HIV/AIDS, known as AMPATH, one of Africa's largest, most comprehensive, and effective HIV/AIDS control systems. As AMPATH expanded HIV/AIDS care, the core Indiana-Moy partnership has grown to include other North American medical schools, including Brown University, Duke University, University of Utah, University of Toronto, Providence Portland Medical Center, and Lehigh Valley Hospital and Health Network.
Okay.
Well over 1,000 Kenyans and Americans have participated in the academic medical exchange between Moy, Indiana, and its Asante Partnership schools. For nearly 20 years, Kenyans and Americans have practiced medicine, trained together, and conducted valuable research side by side.
It's critical, my friends, if we do not unite together with doctors, with church leaders, with schools, with teachers, with society as a whole, we are facing the greatest pandemic that the world has ever met.
At the turn of the century, the partnership was put to its greatest test as the AIDS pandemic began to rampage across Eastern Africa. In Kenya alone, over 700 young people were dying every day, the equivalent of 2 fully packed 747s going down every day, day in and day out. Fifth-year medical student Daniel Oching was diagnosed with HIV in October of 1999. At that time, no one submitted to an HIV test because no one was even talking about HIV, and there was no treatment available to almost anyone in Africa. But Daniel was given life-saving antiretroviral drugs. His dramatic recovery made it impossible for the Indiana Moy physicians to stand by and watch other AIDS patients die without treatment. Soon, a full-scale HIV/AIDS treatment program was launched.
The CD4 cell is in charge of all this.
Now, Daniel Oching is in his 30s, married, and the leader of AMPATH's outreach efforts. He helps ensure that the more than 50,000 HIV-positive patients that followed him take their medicine and comply with their treatment. He insists that this treatment not only saved his life and the others who are already HIV positive, it provides the key to the prevention efforts that are focused on encouraging HIV testing and safe practices. He believes knowing there is treatment for the disease makes people take the test.
My name is Daniel. I'm HIV positive and I'm living positively.
One of Ampath's signature patients is Selena Rotish. She came to the rural Masoriot clinic 3 years ago. She was HIV positive, suffered from pneumonia, and weighed just 68 pounds. She was prescribed antiretroviral medicines and continued to visit the Masoriot clinic once every 2 weeks, but she failed to gain weight. It turned out that Selena had no food in her house for herself or her children. From Selena and other malnourished patients, Ampath learned that antiretrovirals without food were not enough, and that feeding mom was also not enough. One had to feed the children in the home if one expected mom to eat her fair share. When Ampath added food to her regimen, the results were immediate and amazing. After 3 months of medicine and a prescription of healthy, nutritious food, a completely well Selena weighed in at 154 pounds, more than double her initial weight. Ampath's nutrition program was born.
If you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. If you teach a man how to fish, he'll eat for the rest of his life. We have to look at building this nation as it is to be self-sufficient and to actually become a donor itself.
Growing from one small 10-acre training and demonstration farm in 2003 to 7 high-production farms, Ampath now harvests over 7 tons of fruits and vegetables each week, which combined with United Nations World Food Program supplements of grains and cooking oil, Ampath's farms now feed over 30,000 people every week. These food prescriptions vary in duration, but generally last no longer than 6 months, when most Ampath patients have been able to wean themselves from a handout to a hand-up. But even when HIV patients began treatment and developed the strength to return to the workforce, many employers, fearing the spread of the disease, would not rehire them. The Imani Workshop, Imani translates to faith in Kiswahili, was created to teach indigenous pottery skills to these workers. With the help of Western artisans, appropriate clay was located, purchased, and developed for making beads, ornaments, sculptures, and pottery of various shapes and sizes. Papermaking, tailoring, and special paper bead making are among the other skill sets that are currently being taught at Imani Workshop. Ampath's goal is to help get its patients back on their feet without encouraging dependency. Imani Workshop microfinance programs and agricultural cooperative and extension activities are among the Ampath efforts that have allowed patients to move into self-sufficiency. One of Ampath's farmer patients is Ronald. In 2004, Ronald's wife had died from AIDS, and he lacked the strength or resources to care for himself or his children. Ronald's story was one that Ampath workers have seen and heard time and time again. Loss of spouse, loss of resources, loss of hope. In November 2004, Ronald finally found the courage to visit the Ampath clinic in the village of Turbo. As antiretrovirals began doing their magic, Ronald still needed an income to support himself and his children. He became one of the thousands of HIV-positive farming patients whom Ampath helped. Ronald is finally well again, really well. He has his health, his independence, and hope again. He cares for his farm and his family, and both are thriving through the Agricultural Extension Program.
I'm really very much happy to work with somebody like Ronald, because if you can, somebody was down, like he was HIV positive, people were like neglected him in a way, and he was down sometimes. Then this guy comes up and get drugs and eat a bit of food, then he rise up and can make changes in his farm and earn something. So it is better to work with people like Ronald because they show a contribution in our economy still, because they make changes in daily lives.
The stigma of HIV/AIDS still lingers throughout Western Kenya and remains one of the single most daunting obstacles to stopping the spread of the disease. Community awareness and education are critical components to the treatment of the disease.
We have registered over 300 athletes for the competitive race. If you don't know your status, as soon as you finish your race, you are welcome so that they can be tested.
AMPATH hosts education and testing events like concerts, soccer games, and radio shows. A first-of-its-kind 5K and 10K walk-run was promoted in Eldoret, attracting hundreds of participants and inspiring over 1,000 persons to be tested for the HIV virus. Dozens of AMPATH patients ran the race, demonstrating with their feet that they were living healthy lives after their HIV diagnosis and treatment. In recognition of the comprehensive approach to the fight against the HIV/AIDS pandemic, AMPATH has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. It is a frightening fact that giving birth is one of the most dangerous acts of a Kenyan woman's life. So Indiana and Moi are building a new state-of-the-art mother and baby hospital, which is well on its way to completion by summer 2008. This facility will be the site of over 10,000 births each year, including neonatal care units and surgery suites specifically to address women's issues. Africa is faced with a growing population of orphans who must live their lives faced with the consequences of the HIV/AIDS pandemic. Equally as concerning are the children who have suffered the loss of one parent and therefore are at risk of food insecurity, inadequate education, and abnormal development. In Kenya alone, there are an estimated 2 million orphans and vulnerable children. Margaret Alegwa is an AMPATH social worker from the village of Turbo. She frequently journeys into the neighborhoods to assess the needs of families and children who are at risk.
Our goal actually, as we work with these families, is to make them self-sustainable, because we have so many patients in and out. If we say they depend on the program, then very few will have to benefit. Yet we want a large number of people to benefit from the program. So we make them self-sustainable after that. They are really in our hearts. These are the people we yearn God to help them grow up. And we want to help these children get education so that despite the fact that their parents died, they may have a good life, they may lead a better life. And since we visit, these children feel that there are people who care somewhere. Despite of what we are, there are other people who care about us. And it creates within them hope that there's still life to continue.
The magic bullet will be a drug that will kill the virus. We don't have that. The magic thing in my mind is to move as quickly as possible toward house-to-house testing for HIV. Because if we can find patients when they're well, they haven't lost their farms, the husband hasn't died. If the father stays alive and the mother stays alive, there are no orphans. I believe this holds the secret of bringing this pandemic to its knees.
Despite the tremendous advances in the treatment of cancer in the U.S. and other Western countries in recent decades, the problem of cancer in Africa has been largely ignored. Cancer in Western Kenya today is too often treated like cancer was in the U.S. 80 years ago. If you have cancer, you simply are going to die. Indiana and more universities want to change that equation for the many Kenyan children and adults with highly treatable cancers like Kaposi's sarcoma, Burkitt's, and other non-Hodgkin's lymphomas. Building on the foundation created by the work in HIV care, cancer specialists from Moy University, Indiana University, and other universities in the Asante Consortium are creating treatment and prevention programs that will save lives right away and will also be the sites of critically needed research and training that will save lives for decades to come. From life-saving surgeries to providing cancer treatments, creating hope for HIV-positive patients, developing preventive medicine strategies to addressing the special needs of mothers and babies, the IU-Kenya Partnership, a long-term commitment to the right of all peoples to live their lives to the fullest, regardless of economic station, their ethnic background, or religious belief. A commitment to humanity and to hope on behalf of the people of Central Indiana, the people of Western Kenya, and all caring peoples of the world.